Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Troy from Sicce Bros. In today's video, I'm going to walk through how I do water changes on my 5 basement aquariums with a focus on my 180 gallon aquarium here. My brothers and I did a video on water changes about 1.5 years ago, but my tank sizes and number of tanks have grown during that time. So my needs have changed and I've upgraded my process to make sure I could do water changes fast and easy down here in my basement. I'll also share some tips and tricks throughout the video that you could probably apply to your own process when you're doing water changes. So guys, let's dive right in. Okay, so first off, I have 5 basement aquariums. I have the 180 gallon right here. I have the 48 gallon saltwater tank. I have a 10 gallon desktop aquarium right behind the camera. And then in the room back there, I have a 75 gallon and a 33 gallon shell dweller tank. So for all of these tanks, I've always used the Python water changer and it works perfectly. But I've also started to include the Sicce pump. This is the Ultra Zero, and it's really sped up not only the rate that the water changes, but also reduces the amount of water that you waste whenever you're trying to keep the siphon traditionally with the Python hose. I've tried a lot of other pumps out there and they always had to be rigged up in some way to fit the hosing or just didn't have the power to move the water as quickly. So the Sicce pump here easily connects to the end of the Python and it's ready to go. We've already been using this process for maintenance on Coach Donovan's 180 gallon tank, which we'll show in a future video. Before doing your water change, it's always great to test your water. So using something like the API test kit, you can see where your current levels are, especially to see how much nitrates you have in your tank, which can then dictate not only the volume you take out of your tank, but how often you do it. So if you're testing your water and checking your parameters, I would say around 40 parts per million or higher for nitrates is a good time to start your water change. So I'm going to quickly test my water with the API test kit here, and I'll leave affiliate links down in the description below for all the products I mentioned in this video. So based on when I'm typically reaching this 40 parts per million level in my tank, it comes out to about 30 to 40% of water that I need to change weekly on this 180 gallon tank. And that's the cycle I've been on the past 6 months or so. The water change drops the nitrate level in the aquarium and has been good for the time being, but as the fish continue to get bigger and if the nitrates build up quicker than they currently are, I would simply increase the volume of the water change or the frequency. So to start this process, I attach the Python adapter to my laundry room sink, attach the Python hose, and then remove the end of the Python to attach the Sicce pump. I drop the pump into the tank and plug it in. The water will drain very quickly through the pump, and while that's happening, I like to scrub the algae off the acrylic so that it's sucked right up in the water change. Without the pump, I would need to have my water running from the faucet to maintain the siphon, which wastes a ton of water, so the pump saves time and water. I also turn off the filters and everything else during the water change, but you could probably leave them on as long as they aren't splashing water everywhere. Lastly, I get asked a lot about siphoning the sand, and honestly, I hardly ever do that in this tank because I have 2 big filters and a Sicce Extreme wave pump, which really keeps the water moving in the tank and prevents debris from collecting on the sand. But primarily, the secret weapon here is that my geophagus constantly sift through the sand, and they do this all day long. Any food or waste is usually kicked up and into my filters, so my sand never really gets dirty. If I were to clean the sand, I would attach the Python end piece and hover over the sand, and I'll show this in my 75 gallon in just a minute. Then it's time to refill the water, so I take the pump off, screw the Python end piece back on, change the adapter to fill, and then turn the water on. As the water starts to fill, I add my dechlorinator, which is usually CCAM Prime, dosing for the full volume of the tank rather than just the new water. I just do the temperature by feel, making sure it's as close to the tank water as possible, and then I wait for it to fill. The final touch is using Fritz cleaner for the outside of the tank, and then it's all set. For my other two tanks that are on the other end of my basement, I actually got the extension hose for the Python, but for the 75-gallon tank, I sometimes use the pump, but since I only do about 20% water changes, I sometimes just keep the siphon going. The Anubias and other plants in this tank keep the nitrates lower than in my 180, so less volume is needed to be changed each week. I also skim my sand more in this tank due to less geophagas helping me out. For the Shell Dwellers tank, it's only about 10% per week, but sometimes I let it go longer since it's a very light bioload. Same goes for the 10-gallon planted tank. Lastly, the 48-gallon saltwater tank uses the Sicce pump with the Python by draining in the same way, but then I reverse the pump to the bin that I make the saltwater, and it pushes the new saltwater to the tank. I do this maybe once every 3 weeks at about 20%. Okay, the water changes are done. Let's check on the 180-gallon aquarium and see how it's looking. So that does it for today's video. I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, make sure to leave those down in the comment section. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week.